I'm Josh
Gabe.
from Balanced Body Rehab. What many people don't realize is that they walk asymmetrically. Whenever we're walking, sometimes our pelvis or our trunk might rotate one way or another, our body might shift one way or another. Thousands of repetitions of that cause many different conditions. We treat those conditions at our office, but there's one condition that we see commonly. And that condition is a lot of people have a pattern in which they drop the right side of their rib cage down and their pelvis tends to rotate to the left, to face to the left, which then causes that person to destabilize in their pelvis. Their abs turn off on this side. So we teach a corrective technique to help stabilize the pelvis with walking and then correct those impairments that are leading to their condition. So Gabe, let's demonstrate. So Gabe's turning around here. You notice he has a couple dots on his buttocks there so we can better see what's going on in his pelvis. When people are walking, go ahead and walk here, Gabe, they tend to twist too much to the left and they swing their left arm more to match the right leg coming around more. So it's a right arm, or a left arm drive and a right leg that are swinging too much, causing the pelvis to rotate to the left. That causes then their right leg to turn out in compensation, their left one to turn in compensation, and there's a number of muscle reactions that occur from that. So to correct it, well, all we ask patients to do really is to find their left abdominals. So I'm going to ask Gabe this time to find his left abdominals here and just act like somebody just hit him in the belly right here, and he says, oh, and he just finds that more like a 10% contraction to hold the left rib cage down so his right rib cage won't fall down anymore, which should create more stability here. So he's just going to squeeze that a little bit as he's walking, and that's going to change up his mechanics. The only other thing we teach people here too is then to roll off the big toe. Let your foot land in whatever way, but I want you to hold this here and roll off the right big toe because that's usually a part of the components that are missing there. So Gabe, let's try that again. He's going to hold his left rib cage down and then roll off his right big toe. And then here you see a more symmetrical walking pattern. Then come on back, Gabe. Excellent. At home, the way you can try to know whether, you can't see this on yourself, obviously, but you can hear it. When you hear somebody walking asymmetrically, they'll have an asymmetrical walking sound. A symmetrical walking pattern has a sound of bump, 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 like you just heard with Gabe. But an asymmetrical walking sound is going to be ba-bump, ba-bump, ba-bump. That means you're doing something on one side rather than another. And because we see this pattern so commonly, it might be this exact pattern. So if you can work on holding your left rib cage down, activating your abdominals, that may correct it for you. And don't forget to roll off the right big toe. You can roll off both, but just a focus of rolling off your right big toe, because commonly people in this pattern are on the outside of the right foot, which causes a number of different conditions. So hope this information helps. I'm Josh.
I'm Gabe.
From Balanced Body Rehab. Gabe's happy today. He's got his smiley face on. What we want to show here is that most times people have a tendency to drop their right rib cage down like this. If you see people in the community and you really pay attention, if they have any imbalance of dropping one shoulder to the other, usually their right shoulder is going to be dropped, their right rib cage is going to be dropped. That causes the right abdominals to be on all the time. It causes tension on the right side. Lots of problems can occur because of that. So we ask people sometimes whenever they're having this presentation to help drop their left rib cage. But we don't want them to just drop their left rib cage because then they just end up leaning left and causing problems that way. Really, when we ask them to drop their left rib cage to correct this pattern, we're asking them to do a scoop. And we ask them to do a scoop in the shape of a smiley face. That's why Gabe has this on him today so we can show you that. So what we ask them to do is to lower their left rib cage and tighten the left abdominals, but at the same time we want them to lift their right side. So you elevate the right rib cage and drop the left rib cage. And as you're doing that, you should see the rib cage or thorax kind of shift to the right a bit as you do it. So the scoop looks like this, okay? Gabe, if you want to show them again, first show them where people are, like this, and then scoop it and change. So you're dropping the left rib cage down and in, tightening up the left abdominals just a little bit, and sometimes people lift that rib cage too much, so they bring it forward just a little bit, rib cage down, tightening the left abdominals, and the right side lifts just a little bit too as the rib cage shifts that way. So it's subtle, but that scoop is very effective at correcting this pattern, which stabilizes the pelvis and the walking pattern and everything else, and you can really make some big time change just through improved consciousness of where your rib cage is. Hope this helps. I'm Josh.
I'm Gabe.
From Balanced Body Rehab. Gabe and I want to show you an exercise today to correct the universal pattern. The universal pattern of the body, a neuromuscular pattern that causes the body to fire more on one side than the other, tends to cause the right glute max and the left gluteus medius to be more weak, or what we'll just call it inactive. And so we want to show you a way you can do a squat with a ball to show you how you can turn certain muscles on and inhibit others as well that are necessary to get out of the pattern. So Gabe, let's show him the squat with a ball squeeze here. So what Gabe's doing is putting the ball between his knees and squeezing that, and he's putting his left foot is about an inch forward from the other foot here. So his left foot is a little forward compared to the right. What that's doing is making his pelvis turn to the right slightly. In the universal pattern, the pelvis is typically turned to the left. So his pelvis is turned to the right slightly. He's going to do this squat. You might move away from the door there a little bit more. There you go. He's going to do this squat where he reaches his bottom back, squeezing the ball gently, and he's going to put the majority of the weight on the right leg whenever he's doing this. What he's trying to find here, he's trying to find the inside glute muscle, not his outer glute muscle, not this outside. We don't want that turning on. We want the inside glute muscle to turn on. By squeezing the ball, that turns off the outside glute muscle on the right. That's why we do the ball squeeze, to turn off the outside glute muscle, because that one's too active. By squeezing the ball, it forces him to use the inside glute muscle, the glute max, and fire that. If he starts to feel that turning on well and wants to load it more, then he could add dumbbells into his arms to help load that even more. He can go deeper with the squat, but the key is finding that muscle first and then loading it more. Now, to use this squat to exercise the left leg, we take the ball out. And you can either exercise with the ball out, or you can actually take the ball and put it against something where you'd be standing against a piece of furniture. In this case, it's me, but Gabe's pushing out with his knee slightly. His pelvis is still rotated to the right just slightly, and his left foot is slightly in front to help encourage that motion. And now he's putting all his weight on his left leg. So it's 80% on the left leg, 20% on the right. He's just gently pushing out with his left knee. That's not the main action. The main action is just going down, putting the majority of the weight on with his body weight shifted, his pelvis twisted, so that he will turn on the outside of his left buttocks here, the gluteus medius, because that muscle is typically inactive or turned off in the universal pattern. So this helps fire that up as well. So in your typical workout, if you're working out and you didn't have a ball, you can still have this bias just by moving the pelvis just a little bit. And if you want to focus on the right leg a little more, you pull the right knee in just a bit and focus on the left knee going out just a bit to turn on those key muscles. However, I want to caution you, if you're doing heavy weightlifting and really loading up with a lot of weights, don't twist your pelvis at all. Don't try to pull one knee in versus out, because you need to make sure you have great mechanics and not overload your spine in a twisted fashion or your knee in a twisted fashion that could cause injury. But this is a great tool or exercise to turn on the key muscles so that whenever you do load it with heavier weights, you'll be firing the muscles that you desire to be fired. Hope this helps. Hi everybody, I'm Josh.
I'm Gabe.
From Balanced Body Rehab. Today Gabe and I want to show you some techniques to correct your sitting posture if you've been deemed to kind of have a twist in your pelvis in a pattern we've identified as the universal pattern. And so most times when people sit, they have a tendency to sit with their pelvis face to the left. So Gabe, if you can kind of show that. Commonly this happens it happens out of habit, but then also when people are reaching for the accelerator in their car, that's commonly the position they get put into. What happens is when the pelvis gets twisted to the left, the right leg in turn then tends to roll out in compensation for that. So people will find their right knee against the car dash, okay? And then if the right leg is turned out long enough, then the right hip gets really tight. Another thing that can make the hips tight is when people sit, if they sit back on their tailbone like this, and they sit on their tail, then that doesn't utilize the hips either, and that makes their hips tight. And so to correct that, we ask people to try to sit on their sit bones. Come on up and sit. Good, and Gabe's finding his sit bones there, further explained in another video of ours on YouTube. But also we ask people to try to orient their pelvis to the right. And so what I mean there is, we're going to try to tuck the right pelvis back and the left pelvis forward. And that's not just strict shifting. We try to, if you can think about it, you're trying to roll your right ilium or right pelvis back, and the left one's going to roll forward just a little bit and kind of feel that translation. That's really what we're looking for. And if you look down at your knees, you want to look and see that your left knee is slightly ahead of your right knee. Finally, what's going to happen there, though, is your right leg is going to want to flop out like it always wants to in this pattern. So I have an exercise we call Don't Drop the Ball. I'm going to put a ball between Gabe's knees here, and he's going to hold it there. We're not asking him to squeeze it all day. He's essentially just trying not to drop it because his right leg wants to flop out. Now the benefit is this, is because he's not letting his leg flop out, his tissues are now remodeling themselves on the right leg. His right IT band, his right buttock are now under a position of stretch, a light stretch that he can have all day. So Gabe sits like this more habitually, more commonly, then his tissues are going to remodel themselves just like, they're going to remodel themselves in a good way, just like they remodel themselves in a bad way from sitting in the faulty position. So the body always responds to stresses applied to it, so we're applying a corrective stress throughout the day that can give some very long-term benefits. Did I miss anything here, Gabe? Well, the other thing is if the pelvis is twisted to the right, we want to make sure that the rib cage then is, of course, straight ahead. So at the rib cage level, below the nipple line, you just want to make sure that's torqued straight ahead because the body always has to have a counter effect. So pelvis face to the right, rib cage straight ahead, and let your body start that corrective process. All right, thank you. Hi everybody, I'm Josh from Balanced Body Rehab. I'm doing now what we all do too much throughout the day. I'm sitting, okay? We sit too much. Whenever we sit too much, working at our computer stations or wherever it may be, our chest gets tight, our head gets forward, our hip flexors get tight, and our bodies just generally get more fatigued throughout the day from sitting in this way. We get that general malaise or feeling of low energy after sitting for that long. And then whenever we try to get up and do something, suddenly our body isn't working in the way it's supposed to and we might get injury. So I want to show you a quick series of exercises to prevent that low energy feel and get your muscles turned on whenever you want them to. All right, so the few exercises you can do while sitting, you don't even have to get up, are, we call it hug the world, hug yourself. So hug the world is open your arms up really wide, and when you do that, I still want you to contract your abs to keep your rib shelf down. Open your arms up really wide to hug the world and grab the world, and then hug yourself. Give yourself a hug, you deserve it, and bend your head down and round and pull your rib cage down and really stretch your back, and then again, hug the world. Hold it for a few seconds, take some deep breaths while holding your rib cage down, and then hug yourself and back down. And hold those for a few breaths each, just about 3 breaths each, and do that as a series of 3 repetitions. If you do that every hour, okay, just to keep loose there. Another one I want you to do every hour, because our heads tend to get forward, is I want you to pull that neck back. But notice that whenever I pull the neck back, I'm not allowing my rib cage to come with me. No, I'm holding the rib cage down, tightening the abs up, pulling the neck back, lengthening the back of the neck. And once I have that, then I'm trying to Bend the neck back from the lower point there and look up towards the ceiling to get that arch all the way through the neck there. And that's going to counteract the forward head posture there and the stiffness we all get in our upper back there. You do that, you hold that for a few seconds, just 3 seconds, and do that 10 times every hour or two as well. And that's going to keep you feeling much more limber in this area, able to sit up straight. There's also the hip flexors and different chest stretches that we can do in a standing once you do get up, because we should. And so I'll show you a few techniques you can use there too. Okay, you just got out of your chair, you're deciding that you need a little bit of a movement break. I'm here to show you a couple things that you can do to loosen up even more. So what you can do is get into a doorway and put one arm up in the doorway, tighten your rib cage down, pinch your shoulder blades back, and really just traction the shoulder there and get that good opening through there while holding the rib cage steady. You might turn your head a little bit towards the shoulder you're stretching and just get that big stretch. And then you can jump into the other side of the doorway and hit the other side as well, just to really traction that and open that up while keeping the rib cage down. That's another way to really open it up. You can push on the door frame while relaxing. You can take some deep breaths. All those are strategies to help get an opening of the chest. The more open we get the chest, the less it pulls our head forward, the better we feel. Okay, so that's a great additional stretch for the chest. One of the other things you can do just to enhance more movement throughout the day, to open up your hip flexors, open up the ankles, and open up the chest, this is a great one, is to do this exercise here. It's a little bit of a lunge movement where you have your, in this case, the left leg forward, right leg back. The back leg, the knee is straight, and you're just going to pump that ankle back and forth while holding your pelvis tilted under to keep the hip open and not letting your knee go forward. So you're really balancing yourself on the front leg. In this case, I'm balancing myself in the left glute, working up and down, doing a piston motion, but the only thing moving is my back ankle. It really opens up the hip flexor, opens up the calf, turns on the left glute. To make it more complicated, you can reach out your arms like this at the same time, and as you're going down with the ankle, you raise your arms up, pinching your shoulder blades together. That opens up the hips as well. To add another movement variation in there, when you're going down, you can raise this arm up and really open up the whole side. Of course, you can flip to the other side and do that as well. The same movement pattern, or opening up like this. The key is, guys, you want to keep moving. Just whatever you do, if you're standing for too long during the day or sitting for too long, you might be in perfect position, but if you stay in one position too long, your body won't like it. So the key is, motion is lotion. Always keep moving, but try to move correctly. Move better, feel better. Hope this helps. I'm Josh.
I'm Gabe.
From Balanced Body Rehab. Today, Gabe and I want to talk to you about sitting. How we position ourselves throughout the day determines how our body adapts to those sitting postures. If we sit wrong, our body is going to change in a negative way and we can actually get injuries from that. So the biggest thing people need to learn is, number one, just how to generally sit, and we call it sitting on your sit bones. Gabe, can you turn and face that way? So Gabe demonstrated slump. So if Gabe slumps, you see how he's sitting back and his back is rounded, but he's going to feel weight more in his tail. You act like if you had a tail, you're sitting on your tail back here. And so that's not how we want to sit, because then the muscles back here get over elongated, and over time then your ligaments have to hold you up, and that'll create instabilities in your back or a disc injury. Okay, if the converse of that, or the opposite way people can sit, is that they sit too far up. And he's sitting way up, sticking his chest out. Now he's sitting too far forward, and that's going to add compression to his back as well. So what we want to do is try to sit on our sit bones. There are bones underneath your bottom that when you sit on a firm chair, you're going to feel them. And so when you sit all the way back, roll back, you're off those sit bones. And if you sit all the way forward and stick your chest out, then you're sitting in front of them. You want to try to find the pinnacle point of those sit bones and sit right on top of them. If you can stay there majority of the day, then you're going to have less aches and pains in your back and feel better overall. Try to get an equal weight distribution on both sides. Then that'd be ideal. Not everybody sits like that, and even if they try to sit like that, they still get some aches and pains because other parts of their body are causing them to be in an imbalance. One of the major things that people tend to do whenever they sit, Gabe, let's face the camera a little more, is when they sit, they tend to gravitate, have their right knee forward from their left knee so that their pelvis is facing off to the left a little bit. And so if your pelvis is facing off to the left a little bit, that causes your spine to twist in the opposite direction, and that can wrench up your spine and cause a lot of other imbalances. Also, people tend to sit so that they might be leaning onto their left buttock, and then their right hip bone raises up in the air, so it's imbalanced, and that causes them to have more tightness on their right side or be more stretched out on their left side. So that can cause some problems as well. We're going to show you today how to correct that oblique presentation. It's a correction of the universal pattern of sitting. So to do that, Gabe's going to try to, number one, he's going to sit on his sit bones. He's going to try to bring his left knee forward from the right knee just a little bit to change, so that the right knee is behind, left knee's forward. This knee stays tucked in just a little bit. And then the really particular thing we ask people to do is to try to sit back in the right quadrant. There you go. And so Gabe's sitting back on the back of his right buttock to get behind, slightly behind that right sit bone. And then on the left sit bone, he's actually sitting on top of that sit bone, because that truly twists the pelvis in that way to get a stretch on the right and lower back. So you're sitting to the back of the right side of the buttock there, not to the front. A lot of people tend to cross their legs when they sit, and that can bias them too. So try to keep your feet on the ground both feet on the ground as much as you can throughout the day. But if you're going to cross your legs, crossing your left leg over your right to help bias that positioning is going to be the preferable way to cross your legs so that you can get onto the back right side of the buttocks there. Gabe, am I missing anything as far as instruction there?
No.
Oh, the other thing we could mention though is when you get your weight onto the back right side of the buttocks, we need to then counter the rib cage and bring the rib cage down on the left. That's very important, because I don't want you just to lean on the right side. I want you to get your weight on the back right side of the buttocks, but then drop the left rib cage down to help balance the weight distribution. Try to stay there as much as you can throughout the day. If you get aches and pains, take a break. So, all right, hope this helps. Hi, I'm Josh.
I'm Gabe.
From Balanced Body Rehab. Gabe and I want to show you some strategies today to release your hip flexors. Hip flexors are commonly tight. It's a very common imbalance in the population, and a lot of people have trouble getting to their hip flexors. Hip flexor tightness can cause lower back pain. They can cause your glutes to shut off. They can cause you decreased flexibility in your hips that impair your walking or running ability. So we're going to show you some strategies here today. One of the ways that we can be creative in releasing the hip flexors is by taking a ball and placing it at your abdomen, just in front of your pelvis. If you feel in front of your pelvis, there'll be a bone right there. And just to the inside of that bone is where the hip flexor runs from your hip up into your lumbar spine. So if you can take a ball, we have an orb ball here, it's spelled O-R-B, that you can get online. And it's a firm ball, but by placing it there, Gabe's going to place it just to the inside of what's called the ASIS, that's the bony projection right there of his pelvis. And then he just simply scoots his body to apply pressure to it there, and that feels like a deep pressure. You're not going to hurt anything being all the way on the outside. If you move the ball to the middle of your body, that's on your bladder, and that'll be uncomfortable. But just lying on it there is going to apply pressure deep through your intestines into the hip flexor and provide an acupressure there that helps shut off the muscle. So that in itself is good. But one of the things we can also do here is squeeze the buttock on that side. And by squeezing the buttock, that also helps turn off the hip flexor. Okay? In this instant, and Gabe, can you scoot up on the mat just a few inches? We're going to get your foot up on the table. Okay, we're going to keep the ball right there. And Gabe's going to keep his foot bent up here and put your toe down, Gabe, just like this. And now Gabe's going to keep his toe down. Now he can squeeze the butt and raise the knee up at the same time. So he's getting some hip extension in there, which then biases the hip flexor too and stretches it out. So it's another strategy. Okay. Use this. You hold that stretch maybe for 30 seconds. Do a few glute contractions on and off, and just try to feel that release sensation. And then you know if it's released, then you can switch to the other side. Long-term success with getting the hip flexors longer is going to be through doing bridges and glute exercises, abdominal exercises to counter the tone in the hip flexor. But hope this helps. Hi everybody, I'm Josh.
I'm Gabe.
From Balanced Body Rehab. Today Gabe and I want to show you a very specific exercise that's meant for people who have trouble stabilizing on their left leg, meaning their left leg tends to fall in, they can't stabilize on their first ray, which is really the big toe. They can't get stability there, and so because they can't get stability, you can have any number of symptoms, whether it be knee pain or foot pain. But we're going to show you this exercise that's really been effective. So Gabe's going to be barefoot and up on his hands and feet, so a quadruped or like a bear crawl position. And in this position, he's then going to lift his right leg up in the air, like so. And then when he lifts his right leg in the air, that really makes him put more pressure on that, and he's going to try to keep pressure on that big toe whenever he's doing this. That in itself is pretty hard sometimes, and it really activates the left glute. But to make it more difficult, I'm going to ask Gabe to raise the right side of his pelvis up towards the ceiling. What that's doing is it's making this hip, the left hip, move into external rotation. External rotation is that motion that really fires the glutes there. So this is what we call a closed chain external rotation exercise for the hip that really fires the left glute med, which helps stabilize everything. So that's fantastic. Gabe's going to try to keep his knee steady there while he just rotates there. Another way we can really challenge the glute here is Gabe's gonna kick the leg up in the air, but then move it out to the side away from us. So it's going out and in. Because the leg goes out, that acts as a lever by which this left glute med has to really stabilize and turn on. But this glute med can't work unless it's grounded, and so he's grounding from that big toe. So there just turns on an amazing contraction or connection between the big toe and the glutes there that you can't get when you're just on hands and knees necessarily. So we've modified maybe a bird dog position to the big toe, and it's really been effective for us. Hope it helps you. Hi everyone, I'm Josh.
Rob.
From Balanced Body Rehab. Today Rob and I want to show you a new glute exercise that we've discovered that is just fantastic with our patients. So what it is you can get in a stairwell, or you can use a treadmill like this. But the goal is you're doing some sort of step up with hand assist. It decreases the load on the knee, and it definitely activates the glutes. It's a high repetition exercise, low load on the knee. So Rob, you want to show them what we got here? So Rob's using a treadmill like this and stepping up. He's using his arms to pull up and advancing the other leg, and it's just simply a step up and down. But notice Rob's knee never travels forward. He's keeping it back the whole time and really emphasizing when he's coming back to fire through the glutes when he's doing that. And so you literally do this 30 to 50 repetitions. It may not seem like much at first, but as you keep doing it and focus that weight going back on the glutes, you can really feel the glutes firing there. So a lot of times we ask our patients to go down a little slower on the descent. So Rob, if you can show that, a little slower on the descent and then explode up on the other part. A little slower, eccentric to load the glutes and then explode up. Good. Commonly, the right gluteus maximus is weak and the left gluteus medius is more weak, and we see this a lot in the clinic. So sometimes we ask our patients to bias this exercise a little more by pulling the right knee in just a little bit, not totally out of alignment with the foot, but just in a little bit, which can bias the right glute max. Or when the left leg is up, we might have the left knee just be out just a little bit more to bias the left gluteus medius. So, but also you can use a band if you can arrange it in your stairwell or so to be able to use a band. So maybe you can hook it on the banister of a stair rail, see if you can get creative with it. But on this instance, with the right leg forward, you're gonna be pulling the band inward like Rob's demonstrating here. So then it's just the same movement, up and down, a little slow on the eccentric, and then explode up. And Rob, you can get a little more speed there. There you go, just up and down. Perfect, that's great. Okay, and so that would be for the right leg being forward, and then for the left leg being forward to challenge the left gluteus medius, or what we call the outside glute muscle. Well, Rob's gonna switch it, and this time because the band is tied on in the same direction there, he's gonna be pushing out with the knee there and going up and down to fire the left gluteus medius, or the outer glute muscle. And so when doing that, Rob's just really trying to focus on those key areas when we're trying to specify those. All right, hope this helps. Hope it burns. Hi, I'm Josh.
I'm Gabe.
From Balanced Body Rehab. Gabe and I are going to talk to you about sleep positions today, so you can get a better night's sleep and not wake up so stiff and achy, and not twist and turn so much at night. If you can get your body in a restful position all night, you won't move as much in bed, you'll get better sleep, and you won't wake up as stiff and achy. So Gabe is lying on his back here, and he has a pillow under his neck, which is great. Some people, when they sleep or put their head on a pillow, lay back, and they'll put their shoulders on the pillow and have their head on the pillow as well. That's no good because it lifts the rib cage up and then makes the neck go back into extension, so that can hurt your neck. You always want to make sure that you have a good pillow that supports your neck and comes up to meet your neck so that you have the same amount of pressure at your neck and as you do at your head. A contoured pillow like we have here allows Gabe's neck to settle back, or his head to settle back, and his neck still be supported. You can also use more of an artificial down or a feather pillow where you can dig out the center of the pillow and then let your neck or your head sit back into it, and your neck will still be supported as well. Cotton pillows don't work for the neck because they just push on the head and they don't support the neck. Okay, moving down the chain, Gabe is lying on his back, but sometimes people, when they lie on their back, have a little bit of a lifted rib cage. They'll lift up here, that's just their natural presentation. They arch their back, that causes pressure on the back. So in order to get his spine to be more at rest, we grab a pillow and put it at his upper back. So lift up there, Gabe. I'm gonna put this pillow at his upper back, okay? And so you can see in the video that we have a pillow at his back of his shoulders, which lifts his rib cage, puts his spine in a more neutral position, and his neck is still well supported with a good pillow. Okay? Moving down the chain, his pelvis has a tendency to tilt this way, which then arches his back, and that'll cause pressure as well. So to reduce the pressure in his back, we're going to try to use some pillows underneath his knees and pelvis to get them turned around as well. We all know about putting a pillow underneath your knees to help your back. Put your legs down there, Gabe. And that helps better than nothing, because if Gabe's legs were completely flat, that would definitely tilt his pelvis up. And this does help somewhat, but there's still a bit of a traction force that is pulling on his spine right now. To help out with that, so I have a rolled pillow there, and I'm going to take another pillow and put it on top of this one to give it a little more height instead of rolling it, like that. One more pillow, lift your bottom up, Gabe. And back down, underneath the bottom half of his buttocks. And so what's happening here with the two pillows underneath the knees and this pillow here, we're creating a wedge. And that wedge is forcing pressure back on the pelvis here, causing it to roll flat, flatten out his spine, and put him in a more neutral position. And so this is going to allow Gabe's spine to really rest at night, and he'll get a better sleep. It takes a lot of pillows, and these are just cheap cotton pillows, anything can work. This will allow the spine to be in a better restful position. Next, we talk about side lying. Line your left side, Gabe. We're going to take all the pillows out. Okay, and so line your left side there. When Gabe lies on his left side, because he's on a hard mat, then his spine is sagging down here, and that could cause compression on his spine. So to help out with that, we're going to put a pillow underneath his waistline. Okay, back down there. That way, Gabe now has equal distribution between his hip, lower back, and shoulder. A good mattress will tend to do this for you automatically, but sometimes you don't have as good of a mattress, or the mattress doesn't work for you. So sometimes we have to get props like this to put your spine in a neutral position. Also, we can see that Gabe's knees are together, hips are wider than the knees, so that's going to cause pressure in the hips and maybe pull in the back. So we can put a pillow between the knees as well, like this. The pillow's between the knees, but then also stacked up underneath the feet so that the hip is not in a rotated position. Now Gabe's in a very restful position, lying completely on his side. Let's say Gabe's left shoulder's giving him problems though, but he still loves to lie on his side. Then we're going to ask him to roll back a little bit at a 45-degree angle with another pillow behind him, and then he can roll back comfortably, still keeping his spine in a neutral position. His whole body is just, rotated back just a bit there. So that will take pressure off his left shoulder. So that's another option. A third option, not our favorite, is that we get a lot of people coming in that describe they love to sleep on their bellies. We don't recommend sleeping on the bellies. Let's go on the belly here, Gabe. We don't recommend sleeping on the belly because that can put the spine in a very torqued position. Go ahead and lie down there and show the camera what happens there. So when Gabe lies on his belly with or without a pillow, his head is really torqued. That reduces the blood flow to the brain. That's why people like to sleep like that. But also his spine is really wrenched there. We want to put him in a more neutral position. So if he wants to be in a more neutral position, we actually recommend no pillow underneath the head. and a pillow or two underneath his abdomen or underneath his chest so that the spine has an ability to flex down there a little bit, and then you can allow your head to rotate to the side here towards the camera. Now, and let's go all the way down on the mat almost. All the way down. There you go. Now his spine is a little bit flexed and rotated. It's in a less extended position, less compressed position than if he was lying down without a pillow under his belly. So that's another option there. Okay. I hope these positions help you get a better night's sleep. If you're having any additional troubles with your back that the sleep position doesn't change, just please give us a call or look us up on our website, www.balancedbodyrehab.com. Thanks. Hi, this is Josh from Balanced Body Rehab.
I'm Gabe.
And today we're going to show you a specialty exercise that we teach in the office when people tend to have a little twist in their pelvis. Anytime the body's in optimal alignment, that means they can optimally function. And when people have a little twist in their pelvis, certain muscle groups in their pelvis and their abdomen don't turn on, which can cause dysfunction and pain. So a specialty exercise we teach for a most common condition of the pelvis we find is called the 11 o'clock correction. Now, what we mean by that is if you think of your pelvis like a clock, and we have a clock here on Gabe's pelvis, and the clock is facing up towards the ceiling, this is 12 o'clock at the top, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Okay, so you get that visual. I'm going to remove the clock now and put it down here, and we're going to show you the 11 o'clock correction. A lot of times people can have a twist in their pelvis where their pelvis is lifted up on the right side, or it's twisted with the right side of the pelvis forward. That means that the front part of the pelvis is dipped down kind of in that 7 o'clock direction. We want to untwist the pelvis and move it in an 11 o'clock direction. And so in order to do that, I'm going to have Gabe do a couple of combo movements and then move it towards the 11 o'clock. So Gabe, do 12 o'clock. And when he does 12 o'clock, that means his back is flattening. He did it right there. He just flattened his back, okay? Relax now, Gabe. Good. Now move it to 9 o'clock, which is just meaning the pelvis is facing towards the camera there, moving to the right. Okay? So 11 o'clock correction is whenever we take the pelvis and move it at a diagonal, a combination of 9 and 12. So Gabe, try to move it there. Good. So really the right side of his lower back or the right side of his pelvis is moving down towards the mat. Because Gabe's pelvis always wants to come up on that right side, we're going to have him hold that while we do a bridge. So this is called the 11 o'clock bridge. So hold that, Gabe, and go ahead and come up then. And what he's trying to do is just maintain that position as he comes up just like that. Good, and back down. And we're going to do several repetitions of that. Okay, come back up. Now to challenge it a little bit more, I'm going to ask Gabe, so hold that up there, Gabe, and now lift just a percentage of your left leg up in the air just a little bit. So you don't even see it. He's lifting it up now, and what he's trying to do is not allow this to dip down, or actually not allow the left side to dip up. Gabe, show him what happens if you're not contracting well. Boom, this side swings down and he can't stabilize it. But if he squeezes his right glute and really holds that 11 o'clock and then raises that leg, he's able to do it. For people that are more weak than Gabe, sometimes they can't even raise the whole leg up. So I ask him to raise a percentage of the weight of the leg just to challenge that. And then, so maybe we'll have him have 80% of the weight on the right leg and 20% on the left. and they maintain that difference while they do the bridge, really challenging that right side. As you continue to work the gluteus maximus over there and challenge it more, you'll become more stable, and that stability in this position then transfers to the more functional positions of walking and running, so that you can maintain that pelvic stability when doing those things and eliminate the pain you may have on the one side. Okay, so that's one example of an 11 o'clock correction. We're going to give you a couple more. The next one we're going to transition to is the 11 o'clock hip thrust. All right, so the next one we're going to do in the 11 o'clock correction series is a hip thrust. And a hip thrust is whenever you support yourself on your forearms like Gabe is. This could be off an ottoman at home if you have a weight bench or a table that works well. But you support yourself, even off the bed may work. But you support yourself on your forearms, and then you let your hips drop down below the level of that surface that you're on. And then we're going to bring our hips up like we were doing the bridge previously. The reason we do this sometimes other than the bridge is because sometimes on the bridge your hamstrings can turn on too much, and it's hard to get it into the gluteus maximus. In this position, sometimes it's a little easier to get the gluteus maximus to fire versus hamstrings. So that's why we do this one too. So Gabe, try to do that 11 o'clock motion. So he's in air here, but he's trying to move the pelvis back to the right, down and back to the right over here to get that 11 o'clock tilt. He's going to hold that and then simply raise his pelvis in the air. And what I encourage people to do is say, squeeze that right buttock, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze over there on that right buttock, and raise up another inch higher, Gabe, while holding it. Good. Now raise up another inch higher while holding it. The whole time he's trying not to allow that pelvis to shift out of place as he's squeezing it there. Good, he's holding it there. Now, Gabe, I'm going to ask you to hold that position and raise your left knee up in the air without moving. Awesome. Gabe's got great activation, so he's able to do it. And down. If he wasn't able to do it, I would again just say, okay, raise just a percentage of this leg up. Maybe just raise 20% of the weight of the leg up, so that you then have to shift to 80% over on the other side. So you have 80% weight bearing on this side compared to the other side, and it's really challenging, or whatever percentage you need to maintain the stability, you got to do the exercise. Once you find out where it's mostly challenged, then I want you to maintain that percentage difference and go up and down, and go ahead and do the hip thrust. So up and down. Good, really challenging that area. And again, when you get to the top, pause, squeeze the glute, and then try to come up another inch higher to really turn it on. And do that until it's completely fatigued on that right side, challenging that right glute. Okay, and then the next one we're going to do is called the 11 o'clock hip hike, to challenge actually the other side, the gluteus medius on the left. All right, so the last correction we're doing in the 11 o'clock series is actually to work the left side, as commonly the pelvis is turned here. We put a couple dots on Gabe to show. Commonly the pelvis is turned with the right side forward. And so what happens there is the left gluteus medius gets weak or turned off, and so we want to have some ways to turn that on, because its action can help correct the alignment of the pelvis and bring the pelvis back too. So when you're standing on your left leg, you want that muscle to fire to correct the position of your pelvis as well. So what we're doing here in this exercise is Gabe is actually going to be standing on a stool. You can replicate this at home by standing on a step or an aerobic step, or your stairs. Have your other hand on a railing or a banister to help give you support, to help control your motion here. What we're going to do is try to accept most of the weight through this left leg, and Gabe's right arm is really just giving him balance there so he doesn't fall off. The motion we're trying to achieve here is Gabe's going to let his pelvis roll down into that right side being forward position. You can see how his pelvis is tilted down and forward with the dots there on that side. Okay, now what the exercise is, he's going to squeeze his left buttock and bring the pelvis to that 11 o'clock position. Remember the clock on his pelvis, and he's bringing his pelvis up and back on the right. Watch the dots. So his pelvis goes down and forward. Now it's coming up and back. So the right dot is coming towards us, and now he's going down and back up. And the pelvis comes up and back. There. The whole time Gabe is doing that, not with his right lower back muscles, not by pushing off with his right arm on the wall. He's using his left buttock muscle here to make all that happen. He's trying to stay as vertical as he can on this side, and just making that twist happen from right in here. And you keep doing that until it really starts to burn and fatigue there, and you can increase the weight as tolerated by not supporting yourself with the right arm, And then if you want to challenge it even more, we've had patients put up to as much as 20 pounds at ankle weights or something else like a heavier boot to challenge the left gluteus medius more in that position. Okay. All right, guys, that's our 11 o'clock series. I hope it's been helpful, and let us know if we can do anything further. Hi everybody, I'm Josh with Balanced Body Rehab, and this is my foam roll. The foam roll is one of our favorite exercise tools we use as clinicians in the office because you can do so many different things with it. You can use it to self-massage your tissues and roll them out. You can use it as a stretching tool. You can use it as a strengthening tool or for stability. There's so many different things you can do with it. It's pretty versatile if you just choose one tool for a lot of different things. So I wanted to show you today a few routines of things you can do for releasing stretching on the foam roll. We could make a whole series out of this, but we're going to show releasing stretching today. But a little disclaimer, if you feel that you're an individual that is maybe in the fragile category or that you're very injury prone, the foam roll might not be your first option. Okay, we don't give this to everyone, especially people that have low bone density, osteoporosis, or any kind of major sensitivities of the nervous system. This might be too much too soon for you. So definitely consult a professional if you consider yourself to not be in the fit category. So just another rule of thumb is when you're doing any of these exercises, you know, pain can tell you a lot in your body. If you're feeling pain, then it's probably means it's not something good. So steer away from pain, make sure you don't injure yourself. But I'm just gonna show you a series of things that we do. Doesn't necessarily mean it's perfect for you. It might be perfect for another person, but listen to your body. Okay, so I'm gonna show you a series of things you can do just starting on your back. And what I like to do is just, it's very simple, just put it at your neck and then just roll your neck side to side. Helps with increasing mobility of the cervical spine. You can nod your chin up and down, just loosens up all those tissues that tend to get tight with forward head posture. So that can be very useful, okay? Moving down, place it at your upper back here, okay? And I see a lot of people when they put it at their upper back, they end up bending way over top of it, okay, and getting a big stretch there. We like to do that with a pool noodle, a smaller diameter tool, but a foam roll is too big really for your thoracic spine to be doing that kind of bending on, and it can really cause injury to some people, and so we try not to advise people to do that. So instead, you cross your arms over your chest, you keep your abs engaged, keep a little bit flexed there to keep yourself protected, and when you're on this, you can do some little movements back. See, I'm bending my spine a little bit back at each segment, then I move up to another one, and I can do that again at that segment, or maybe I want to roll side to side, or just wiggle up and down. All that's okay, but keep your abs engaged and keep yourself safe. You can do that from your upper back all the way down to your lower rib cage, right down in here. But I don't want you to go below the level of your rib cage, okay? So maybe, keep it, a couple inches above your belly button there, and don't go into the lumbar spine too much, because that's a lot of your upper body weight on your lumbar spine when you're in that position can really put a lot of stress, shear force on your spine. So I see a lot of people getting injured like that. So if you want to roll out your back, do it on a wall, but be careful about rolling out your lumbar spine on the foam roll because there's a big lever there and that can cause some strain. Okay, so moving down the chain from this position, again, you can use it almost everywhere, but you gotta use common sense when using this. Okay, so then you can roll it on your buttocks, and really on the buttocks, it's about anything you want to do. You can get on there and wiggle it because it's not just rolling it out, but you want to create shear force on tissues to create some improved soft tissue mobility there. So you can wiggle back and forth, you can twist on it, and just get it really different any arrangement on the glutes. Moving down farther, and at home when you're doing this, take your time. If areas are feeling more tight, I'm just showing you examples of what we teach. So you can roll this on the hamstrings now, and you can roll on the outer hamstrings and the inner hamstrings. Okay, you've got two inner hamstrings and one outer hamstring, and so you can roll all those out. Okay, and then moving down the line, you can put it at your calf muscles, and you can do just one leg on it, like so. But if you need a little more force, like I do, then cross one leg over the other and lift yourself up if you're able, and roll out your calves that way. If you're not strong enough to do this, then there's a lot of other tools, massage sticks, lacrosse balls, things like that that you can use to loosen up the calves too, that work well. But this is just an option for you. Okay, so you roll it out. So notice I'm rolling up and down, but now I'm gonna take my legs, I'm gonna twist them back and forth like this. Again, because our muscles are three-dimensional and there's restrictions in every different direction. So we wanna hit everything and really get after them there. I love to do this before running. Okay? Okay, and then of course you could do that on the other leg and switch to the other side, but I just want to show you some examples. All right, so now what I'm going to do is take the foam roll and show you some side lying approaches. So you can take the foam roll and start it at your armpit right here. You put your hand behind your head to protect your neck, and then just gently roll it back and forth. Sometimes it may not feel like much, but as you roll it, it allows the foam roll to sink into those tissues. There's usually a lot of trigger points here in the armpit area if you keep it right near your shoulder blade. So see how I'm reclined back just a little bit so that the muscles of the shoulder blade are really getting work there. And that's a good workout for those muscles that are chronically usually tight from being bent over a computer or working at a desk for a long time. Okay, if you find a trigger point, which is a bit of a sharp area, it should feel like a deep ache, then sit on there and you can do some variations here. You can pump your arm like you're honking the horn on a choo-choo train. You can wiggle it back and forth like you're throwing a ball here. And that'll all really grind on those trigger points where the foam roll is sitting and help loosen it up. Lots of different variations. You can roll more on your back and hit the posterior deltoid there and some of the different scapular muscles. You can also take it and roll it down your side a little bit to work on the rib cage there. But this is where you have to be careful because the rib cage can be very sensitive to pressures like this, and you can literally injure yourself if you put too much body weight on it. So know your body and don't go too deep on this. I'm only going a little bit of ways down, and I definitely don't want you going so far down that you're on those lower ribs that aren't supported very well. There's some floating ribs on the bottom of your rib cage, and they aren't supported very well. And if you're rolling on those, you could literally fracture those or injure those. So stay off those guys and just kind of work in that armpit area where your shoulder blade is, where you've just got a little more stability and less risk of injury there. Okay, very good. And so you can roll all that out. And definitely always have your arm down. Don't try to put excessive weight on here trying to get the stretch. Okay, we say we never use the F word in the clinic. We never force anything. So if it's just not happening, it's probably technique, or the muscles don't need something, or maybe need some other strategy altogether. But don't force anything on your sides here, because we've had a few patients that have strained themselves from trying things too aggressive there. So be careful with this maneuver. Okay. Now moving on down, you can again use it on the outside of your buttocks now because you're in a side lying position. And position, there we go. And so you can use it right there, and that's hitting your TFL, the front hip flexors a little bit. Okay, and then going on down, the popular IT band. If you take your top leg and roll it over, then you can get on your IT band. I'll try to get my leg out of the way so you can see. So I'm rolling up and down on that, and that hurts. That's a lot of pressure because it is squashing your IT band right on top of your femur there. But again, we're trying to get mobilization of tissues in multitude directions. So I don't have people just roll on top of that. I'll have them stay on there and then maybe wiggle themselves back and forth a little bit there too, because that really gets more mobilization there. Lots of different ways you can release the IT band. If this one's too painful, if it's not your cup of tea, then we can try a massage stick, different maneuvers to loosen up the quadricep and the hamstring off the IT band. The IT band itself is a little too dense to actually unlock. So we just try to teach people to mobilize the tissues around it, which improve the mobility overall. All right, so that's the IT band. Get it there. Of course, you could then roll on your belly and roll out your quadricep like this. And while you're on it, you find some trigger points and you can move your leg up and down, and that really nails it. It's called an active release technique. When you find a trigger point and then you move the extremity to challenge it a little bit. So that's a fabulous technique there too. Of course, there's some techniques for your abdomen and your chest and rib cage there, but those are best advised from a clinician that you're currently seeing, because those can be a little bit risky as well. So I hope this information helps you. If you need any additional information, please give us a call at 314-780-9759. Check us out on our website, www.balancedbodyrehab.com. Thank you. Hi everyone, this is Josh at Balanced Body Rehab, and this is one of my favorite tools, foam roll. On our YouTube channel, we provide you a couple different links of how you can roll out or massage your tissues with the foam roll, how you can stretch your chest with the foam roll, all favorite exercises of mine. But I want to show you something that we sometimes use for our patients too, to really both check and work on stability of their whole system. And so I'm going to demonstrate that here. What you do is lay the foam roll so it's going to lay down the length of your spine. So first step is getting on it, but then let's see if I can get correctly in the picture there. There we go. All right, so lay it down the whole length of your body so that your head is on it and your bottom is on it, so no part of your body should be hanging off. Get your feet wide so that you have a nice tripod effect there and you feel stable. Okay, I want you to hold your rib cage down, engage your core, draw your belly button in, and really get a good tight cylinder there. Okay, and once you're in that position, what I want you to do is bring your feet closer together, put them together. You can still keep your elbows on the ground here. I'm gonna move away so you can see that a little better. All right, keep your elbows on the ground so you still got a little bit of a tripod effect there when your elbows are on the ground. Then, again, keeping your core nice engaged, chin tucked, lift your elbows up off the ground. And see if you can hold yourself in that balanced state when nothing else is really touching the ground and you have a narrow base of support. That really challenges your stability system. It challenges it from a strength perspective, but also from a neuromuscular perspective. So if you have an imbalance of more tightness on one side of your body versus another, or one shoulder or one hip, that can be enough to pull you out of balance. So this is both a strength or stability exercise, but also an assessment tool. It's commonly when we put patients in this position and we have them do something to challenge their system from there, it tells us how we might need to look in a different direction, or it leads us to look in a certain way in that person's body to help them out. Okay, so what I just did here is kind of level one, where you narrow your base of support and then you lift your elbows up. Okay, level two is going to be while you're holding this, I should say, we'll put the elbows back down for a moment. Without trying to push the elbows into the ground, I lift one leg up, okay, then the other leg up. And the goal here is, number one, I want you to sense, number one, can you do it? But then, are you pushing down with one elbow more than another to gain a sense of stability on one side? And that can tell you if you have more of a weakness on one side or the other. Like for me, for instance, I had to challenge myself a little bit more to lift this left leg up before I could really stabilize through there. So that's something I personally need to work on that I just felt. So those little things, those little essences of instability can cause you to pull one direction or another whenever you're running or doing other activities that you don't even know about. So this foam roll can help you determine that. Okay, so if you can raise one leg up with your elbows down, now the key is, can you raise one leg up, whoa, with the elbows up? I'm having trouble on that left leg, it's very tough for me. But look at this, on my right leg, no problem. So that tells me I have an instability when I'm lifting up my left leg, and I need to work on that, okay? To take it to the next level, now you try to lift up the one leg. I'm going to try to lift up my right leg and my left arm at the same time. And then my other side is going to be tough for me. And I can't do it, so I fail level 3. But if I needed a little more stability, I put my elbow down and I can do it no problem. But that shows I have a stability reaction in that diagonal that's not quite working right. The interesting thing though is, if I take this foam roll and I loosen up my back and I do a few stretches, then suddenly I can come back onto this foam roll and do the same exercise and the muscles will be firing, because it's not necessarily a strength issue. It can just be a neuromuscular firing pattern that's not quite doing what it needs to do because there's some restriction happening in the body that doesn't allow the muscles to fire in the sequence they need to. So other things you can do from this, once you've got your sense of balance and you feel that you don't have major imbalances on either side, you can really just do some strength training from this. You can hold yourself down and do some alternating arm and legs. You can hold your rib cage down and do some back and forth with both arms without letting your rib cage lift up. You can hold your elbows down and do some leg raises here, even some bicycles of your legs in the air while balancing on it, challenging yourself not to try to use your elbows too much. Okay, you can do straight Supermans on here, where you're trying to lift yourself up and balance while laying on it, raising both arms and legs up. So all those are great stability exercises, things you can do on the foam roller. You get a chance to really learn more about your body. If you are working on a clinician to work on body balance and feeling as best as you can, then information like this is so important to help you take the next steps in feeling better, and your clinician will appreciate it and be able to work with that. So, hope this helps. Hi everybody, this is Josh from Balanced Body Rehab, and this is one of the tools we commonly use in the office. It's a massage stick. The brand name is Tiger Tail. We like this tool. We like a lot of other tools as well. We like this tool for certain areas of the body, specifically the legs, and it can work some of the back there. So it's easy for people to get to their leg muscles with this. It's not too intense. You can adjust the intensity well. So I just want to show you a few variations of how you can use this, and hopefully it'll help you. You can take the massage stick, just an overhand grip, and roll it just on your thighs. Okay, you can really bear down on it and get a lot of pressure. I'm showing you on the floor. Of course, you can be sitting in a chair and doing this. Okay, and just roll out the front of your thighs. Okay, one of the things I want to let you know though too, it's a rolling tool, but you can grab it and hold the tool and grab it on the inner part there, and then you can slide the tool back and forth, okay, to get a side-to-side motion on the muscles too, which is good to release the muscles in a different fashion there, okay, to get a little bit of a shear force in the muscles and not just rolling them on the bone. All right, then to get the outside of your thigh, you just change up your grip a little bit to make it more comfortable, and roll the outside of your thighs there too, getting all the way up to the hip joint there, okay, and roll it back and forth there. If it's a little uncomfortable, that's natural. If it's a little achy, you don't want it to be sharp pain. So if it's sharp pain, back off or move to a different area. But if it's achy, that's typical. Okay, and then you want to get to your underside of your thigh or hamstring, so take it and get an underhand grip then and get to your hamstrings. So there's 3 hamstrings, 1 on the outside and 2 on the inside. So use the stick to really get in all different areas and go up and down the hamstring. Now, one of the things you can do as well is if you find some sore areas, hold that area and then kick. See how I'm kicking my knee straight at the same time? So that really anchors on that hamstring where it's most tight, and when I kick my leg straight, it stretches to that point. That's called an active release technique. So that's a little nugget that you can take home there and try and maybe do some things a little differently. Okay. Moving down the chain, you can use the stick on your calf like this, still the underhand grip, going up and down the calf. And again, that works well to roll it out. The calf and every other muscle is a 3-dimensional muscle, so you really want to hit it in a lot of different ways. So notice I'm just taking it and I'm wiggling it back and forth. I'm really bearing down in there to go deep on those muscles. If you're sensitive, then stay light or superficial. Okay, another way again, if you grab the roller and then slide it back and forth, then that gives you some variation in that as well. Okay, and again, you can use this in a number of ways, but it works well on the legs, and it works, if you have the flexibility to get your arms behind you, it works well on your back to roll out your lower back muscles. Pretty difficult to go any higher than your lower back, but it does work to roll out your lower back muscles on each side there. Try not to go directly on your spine, that kind of hurts, but go off to each side a little bit, and that works as well. So, those are some of the most common uses of the massage stick or Tiger Tail. Hope this helps you. Hi everyone, I'm Josh.
I'm Gabe.
We're from Balanced Body Rehab, and the guy between us here is Fred. Fred and Gabe have something in common. If you look at them, they both are standing in what would appear to be really good posture to the general public, okay? But from our perspective, it's not so good a posture. It's a military posture. It's a lifted rib cage posture. But when people lift their rib cage too much, it tends to destabilize their spine, okay? We believe at Balanced Body Rehab that the body is composed of basic building blocks, that when you stack those building blocks up on top of one another in correct alignment, that structure is inherently more stable. Makes sense, right? And so one of those building blocks of the body is your pelvis, okay? That makes up one building block, okay? But the next building block up is going to be your rib cage, okay? And the building block on top of that is the head. If you simply stack on top of each other all those building blocks, you get a strong cylinder is what we call it. So we're always focused on the core cylinder and making sure that can be in its optimal alignment. Okay, when you stand with a lifted rib cage, like Gabe and the skeleton are here, okay, then the top cylinder on the pelvis, the top block on the pelvis is tilted backwards. That makes a weak structure. Kind of like if you took an aluminum can and you put a dent in it. Then you can simply, with your hands, crush that aluminum can. Okay, it's not a strong structure. But if that aluminum can maintains its good cylinder shape and doesn't have any dents in it, it's hard to crush with your hands. Okay, so that's a strong shape. So we're always trying to achieve that strong shape for our patients. A lot of times though, our patients can have a lot of tightness in their chest that causes them to be pulled forward. Gabe, demonstrate how the tight chest makes you pull forward. Good, and you look at Gabe's head's facing the ground. That doesn't look nearly as good as what he was doing previous. I mean, he doesn't look as confident there. Everybody wants to be confident. Everybody wants to raise their head up. So when people have a tight chest, it's hard to open up. So what do instead, Gabe? They do that. They puff out the chest, they lift. And so it looks really confident, but when the rib cage lifts up like that, that messes up our cylinder, okay? Messes up our core alignment. Then that puts more stress and it loads our lower back joints. Gabe, you doing okay there? You need to take a break? Yeah. If it loads the lower back, that's what puts extra pressure on our joints here. By having the rib cage too lifted, then the head comes forward too in relation to that and gives us more stress in our neck. If you kind of look at the general population and where people mostly have pain, it's going to be at the lower neck and the lower back. And if people are having surgeries in those areas, it's going to be in, if people are going to have surgery on the spine, it's going to be in the lower part of the cervical spine or the lower part of the lumbar spine. That's the most prevalent areas. Very seldom do people have surgery in their mid-back or in their thoracic spine. That's because typically that area is so much more stable and stiff because of the inherent tightness we get in our rib cage and in our chest. So what we're focused on at Balanced Body Rehab is we really focus on mobility of the chest and the whole rib cage to allow a more equal distribution of force throughout the whole spine. We call the rib cage the distribution center because if it's moving and you're going to be jumping or you're going to be reaching and pushing and pulling, when your rib cage is moving, it helps distribute those forces equally throughout the whole spinal system. But whenever it's really rigid like a block, instead of it absorbing force through this area, it shifts it to the neck or to the lower back. That's why when people are lifting weights, they'll sometimes say, I always feel it in my neck or I always feel it in my lower back. It's because your distribution center a lot of times isn't mobile enough. Or another example is people will not have pain in their back when they're standing up, but when they lie down on a flat, hard surface, they'll say, oh, now my lower back hurts. Well, a lot of times, again, if your rib cage isn't mobile enough, when you lie on a flat surface, the surface is pushing on the rib cage can't adapt to that surface, and so it shifts it to the lower back or the neck. That's why some people have trouble sleeping without pain. So those are just some brief examples. So we have put together some other videos on our YouTube channel if you want to check those out about chest mobility and also rib cage mobility. So if you want to check those out, hopefully that will help you with any condition you may have. And if those exercises don't help, then give us a call.